Kia ora, and welcome to this week's video about how digital technologies can support the participating and contributing key competency. I'm Jan-Marie Callow, and I'm a primary teacher who's really passionate about how digital technologies can support learning. You can see more about me in the Flipgrid introductory video. So this competency is about active and appropriate involvement in local, national and global communities, both as a participant and as a contributor. We'll be exploring what this means and how technology can support it. So making local connections is relatively simple, but when it comes to making national and global connections, that's when technology comes into its own as an enhancer and an enabler. Some of you may have heard of the SAMR model, which looks at the depth of technology use. It starts with substitution, where there is little or no actual benefit gain from using the technology, and moves right through to redefinition, where the technology allows for things to happen that wouldn't be possible without it. When we look at using technology to enable national and global connections and participation and contribution, then we're moving the technology use from enhancement through to transformation. I did a quick Google search and found these definitions of participation and contribution. So participation was taking part in or being involved in an activity, while when you're contributing, you're giving something to others. A question to consider is, can you have one without the other? So when we're thinking about participation, what does this look like in your classroom now? What are the sort of contexts that your learners are participating in? The key competency mentions things like learning, work, celebration and recreation. Is their participation limited to the classroom or to your school or local community? Or are your students given opportunities to participate in national and global contexts? And what would that participation look like? We'll have a look at some examples a bit later on of some authentic contexts where students are participating. The other thing we need to think about is, what are the digital technologies that are enabling that? What are you currently using in your classroom? When we move to contributing, we have similar questions. So what does it look like in your classroom now? What context do your learners make contributions in? Are they limited to your classroom? Maybe the school community, maybe the local community. Have a think about what technologies you're currently using to support the participation by your learners, both in your classroom and also in wider contexts. This key competency is especially demonstrated when we start looking at the contributions that can be made through authentic contexts for learning. One example of that was the Hamilton East Junior class, who were thinking about things that made them happy when they were considering a financial literacy unit. And they decided that stickers were one of the things that made them happy. They made a connection with a class in Kenya and decided that a good way to make these students happy would be to send them some stickers. They communicated by plain old snail mail, but also via a class blog and also through a Facebook page that they created. And that enabled them to have some good communication with those students and to see how those students felt when they received the stickers, for example. On the examples page, there are a number of examples of how digital technologies have supported the participating and contributing key competency. In the Treetops TV example, Leamington School students ran their own TV station. And this is quite easily achieved in a school by using video, which is uploaded to YouTube and then shared with the school and the community. Taupaki School used created interactive rubbish bins. They used some sensors and used this to help solve a problem with students who were dropping a lot of rubbish. And by making their rubbish bins interactive and making comments when rubbish was dropped into it, they managed to get more students using the rubbish bins. There are a number of ways that students can raise awareness of environmental issues using digital technologies. One way, of course, is to use video. Another would be to create a Facebook page. Woodend School used Twitter to send out messages to raise awareness about a particular issue facing their local river. And this is one way that students can get involved in those local issues. The Tararua Primary were researching and building a kia rahi field, and there were 7 pole that were as part of this field, which was a nice coincidence because there were also 7 local marae in the area. So they visited those marae and heard their stories and created videos. And then they made a QR code to those videos as well as artwork and added those to the pole in their kia rahi field. So visitors to the school can scan the QR code and can listen to the stories. This is a great way that you can increase awareness of the stories behind items of interest in your local area. This could be within your school or it could be within your community. There are places that have got rich history behind them. And this is one way that students can help to save this history and to record it and to share it with others when they visit the school or community. Apps like Book Creator have made it really easy for students to create and share their own books. You can create a free account with Book Creator, and this gives you, to start with, a library of 40 books for students to work in. And when you finish with that project, you can archive it and create a new library. Students can choose a template, and then they are able to add a range of media to that template. So they could add some various panels. They can add, they can draw, they can type, they can take pictures and video and add them to their books. They can record themselves talking and add audio to the books. There's a variety of other shapes and tools that they can use to add into their story. Once they've finished, those stories can then be shared online. So you can publish it online. You could also print them off, but publishing online means that they are able to contribute them to a much wider audience. And then once they've been published, then that library can get archived and a new library can be created. One of the aspects of this particular key competency looks at how we are appropriately participating and contributing. And this is where digital citizenship comes in. Mark Ribble identified 9 elements of digital citizenship, and some of these are particularly appropriate to this competency. Digital rights and responsibilities, for example. Do students understand their right to have a safe, friendly digital environment and what their responsibilities are within this? Do they understand about digital etiquette when they are interacting and participating in those online environments? How about digital communication? Do they know what's appropriate to share through email, through texting, through social media? Some of these are conversations that we need to have with our students. NetSafe has a variety of resources that can support this digital citizenship issue. And there's also a link on the resources page to more information on this. We can also explore further than digital citizenship and start thinking about what digital leadership might look like. I find this poster particularly helpful because it has the eye for inspiring. And that's not part of the usual digital citizenship checklists. So how might your learners take a leadership role online? How might they inspire others? The overview page has the tasks for this week. If you take a look at these, and we can discuss any questions that you have during the webinar. The readings explore mostly what authentic context for learning might look like, which is a particular interest of mine. And the examples page has videos of digital technologies to be being used to support authentic context, and especially, of course, around participating and contributing. Please join the Zoom webinar by 4:45 p.m. on Wednesday, August the 14th, and we'll discuss ideas relating to this key competency and the ideas that are raised in this video. You can also check the Week 3 webinar page for details of the Zoom meeting. I'll see you then.